Welcome to my stream recap of the September 9th Q&A with Orion on the LOTRO stream. In this video, I'm gonna go over the most important things that were being discussed in the 1.5 hour long stream. As always with these kind of streams, they talk about lag, and Orion actually said that they've actually found some things that need to be fixed. And it's possible they will get to some of them for the mini X-Pack before the Shadow at the end of this year. Obviously that will not fix all the lag, but hopefully we will see improvements before the Shadow update, if they can get to fixing these issues by then. There was some talk about the classes in the game, and specifically turning classes 3 lines into 2 lines, and of course if classes make sense, like Minstrel makes sense, and for example Guardian I would say makes sense to turn yellow line into a utility line. If 2 lines make sense for a class, they will do that, but if 3 lines make sense to keep, they will keep the 3 lines and instead try to improve those 3 lines instead. He also mentioned that they want every class to be a viable DPS. This does not mean that they want every class to be a hunter DPS or a champ, but it means they want them to be not terrible. It's highly likely that hunter and champ will stay the top DPS for ranged and melee, and they want most classes to be 10 to 15% kind. So basically they want every class to have somewhat of DPS when, for example, going into a raid. For Minstrel, we found out this week will most likely be the last bull roar before this update 33.2 goes live, and all the mini changes are pretty much set in stone. I know there's some new stuff about the anthems working in a pair in this week's beta, which of course I will cover in a later video. But other than that, Mini is pretty much where they want it to be as of right now. He also talked about Warden, and Warden is not in a great place. It does need some adjustments, and in a sense, I agree. The Warden itself does pretty good DPS. The problem is you usually only bring one Warden to an instance, and being a pure bleed class also makes you outclassed in some cases, such as with a lot of ads, where hunters and champions are just way better because of the burst damage. So hopefully in the future we will see some Warden changes. He also talked about lore masters who are suffering a bit with the pets, and of course the pet system in LOTRO right now. Lore masters will summon a pet, put a skill on the enemy, summon another pet, skill on the enemy, summon another pet, and just repeat this cycle of resummoning pets for their debuffs. And they do want to change this. I agree, it's not the best gameplay. It's somewhat challenging and creates a certain skill gap, but if I'm being honest, it's not especially good gameplay, especially for new players. So Orion did say this will be addressed for the mini expansion later this year. So expect to see some lore master pet changes as soon as they finish with the Minstrel. He also talked about Guardian, and Orion himself will take on the Guardian and make some adjustments there. Possibly making yellow into a utility line. It makes sense. I don't think I know any Guardians who actually play yellow line, so it would make sense to turn Guardian into tank or DPS with a yellow line utility line, but we'll see what they end up doing. He also briefly talked about virtues because he got a question about the virtue grind, and the virtues are pretty much there for achievement. They work really well for new content because it's not a lot of work to give us content to work for, so I don't expect to see any changes to this system. I don't mind it really. It's not that hard to grind out your 5 main virtues, and then if you want to grind out the rest, it takes a while, but it's not really needed. The mini expansion coming up soon is called Before the Shadow, and it will release in the last quarter of this year, which would be October, November, December. And I think October is probably a bit too early, so we can expect November or December probably. And we already know there's going to be a new 6-man and a new skirmish. And Orion also said the skirmish loot will be updated, so it's actually worth running this new skirmish. He didn't mention the other skirmishes, but at least for the new skirmish, there will be some changes to the loot. Hopefully all the skirmishes get the same update to the loot, because I don't mind having a lot of content and different ways to earn rewards. We of course have the delving system coming, which I will discuss a bit later. And I also want to say that Orion kind of teased some Second Age stuff. He said Maid of Lions, which is another dev in LOTRO, in SSG, really outdid themselves this time. So maybe in the epic storyline we will get some Second Age stuff. The delving system will be introduced with mini X-Pack Before the Shadow. And at first it will be introduced in the new missions that we get with this expansion. The rewards we can earn, we earn from doing the missions on different difficulties and earning the currency that will drop from the missions. There will of course be new loot, pretty much best in slot items, maybe not best in slot items, but pretty much comparable to raid items. There will be legendary item enhancements to be earned, probably runes and tokens and traceries. And he also mentioned some new crafting. I'm not sure about this, but there's some new crafting thing coming with the rewards, I believe. That's going to be interesting. The flavor will change every day. I think this just means the missions will rotate every day, like we've seen before. There's going to be 10 difficulty levels, so the harder you pick, the more you will earn, I believe. But it's going to be interesting to see exactly how hard the hardest missions are. And eventually, they're looking at adding this delving system to older instances, such as school and library. Orion did confirm that school and library will be the first instances they apply this change to. And for the rewards themselves from this system, after Tier 3 raid has been released, we'll then get new rewards added to this system that you can earn. So you can expect the rewards to be approximately Tier 3 raid quality maybe. And of course, if Orion has a stream, there's always going to be talk about monster play. Someone asked in the chat on the stream if we're going to see new creep races. And Orion kind of like, you know, looked at the webcam, being all suspicious looking. I believe he was kind of hinting towards, yep, in the future we'll probably see new creep races. That's pretty cool. Getting some more options to play as a creep would be nice. And for the monster play overall, the changes they're trying to make, they're currently at step 2 out of maybe 4 or 5 changes overall that they want to implement to this. And the classes will slowly improve for creep side. Already on the Bullroarer, we've seen plenty of changes to skills, new stances. There's definitely work being done for the creep classes. Orion did talk about step 3, which is the next step, and that's going to be big changes, and that will be for the mini expansion Before the Shadow. The delving of Roar will be closed at this point until step 4 and 5. So the delving will be closed for a while. The keeps and towers will have less mobs. This will help reduce lag. And the elf and the orc camp will be moved back to their original locations, which I'm sure a lot of people will welcome. If you like Lord of the Rings Online, there's one place you need to be. In every video that I post, you can go down to the description and join my Discord server. This will take you to the Ghyniverse, a Discord server specifically made for Lord of the Rings Online. Here you will have monthly giveaways where people can enter and win LOTRO point codes. You'll also see whenever I post a new video. as well as stream. There are discussion channels for every class, for PvP, whatever you want from LOTRO. And there's also a best in slot section where you can find screenshots of everything you need in the game, every new gear that comes out, everything you need. Pretty much all the best items you can find here. And all the way at the bottom is my video archive. You can find all my old videos. But if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings Online, if you're a new player, if you're an experienced player, this is a good place to discuss and learn about the game.